Dear friends, thank you for your presence and interest in this gathering. The topic of today is the Tablet of Ahmad and the story of Ahmad. The Arabic Tablet of Ahmad has been translated, disseminated, and recited around the world as an unique prayer. It is used by Baha'is at the time of severe distress or exceptional difficulties, but it is not an obligatory prayer. According to Shoghi Effendi, it is endowed with a special potency and significance. It was revealed in honor of Ahmad, a native of the city of Yazd in Iran, around 1865, but the exact date is not known. For the preparation of this talk, several sources were searched, studied, and cited, including a long document written by a hand of the cause, Mr. Abul-Qasim Faizi. Another source was an account written by Mr. Adib Taherzadeh in his book, The Revelation of Baha'u'llah. And also I had some input about my research about this topic. There are two tablets and that each bear the name of Tablet of Ahmad. One is in Arabic, addressed to Ahmad, a native of Yazd, and the other is in Persian, written for Ahmad of Kashan city in Iran. The two tablets were revealed by Baha'u'llah during his exile in Adrianople in Turkey. These two Ahmads were very different, different individuals with different character and destinies. Both were blessed to recognize and live at the time of two manifestations of God, one the Bab and the other one Baha'u'llah. Both faced the test of faith and sincerity. We begin with the Arabic tablet written in honor of Ahmad of Yazd. It is important to keep in mind that these two tablets were revealed by Baha'u'llah at the time when the majority of the followers of the Bab were just beginning to know and understand the significance of the station of Baha'u'llah and his revelation. In the opening passages of the Arabic tablet, Baha'u'llah declares the exalted character of his mighty revelation and leaves no doubt for the Babis that he represents the fulfillment of the Bab's promise, and in fact, he is the one, him whom God shall make manifest, as the Bab mentions. As Taherzadeh stated, Baha'u'llah also makes it clear in his tablet, and that sincerity is a prerequisite for the recognition of the station of the manifestation of God. The Arabic tablet also conveys a strong sense of love, faith, and servitude, exemplary virtues that every Baha'i, including Ahmad, should develop. In this tablet, Baha'u'llah refers to himself as the nightingale of paradise, the most great beauty, the tree of life. In the same tablet, Baha'u'llah pays a moving tribute to the Bab and affirms that he, the Bab, was the king of the messengers. This statement is very important, not only because it is a principal belief of Baha'is, but also because it had a special significance for the Baha'i teachers during the time of Ahmad, as they were teaching the cause to the followers of the Bab. Ahmad of Yazd was born in Tehran in 1805. Approximately, this is the information we have available. And he was born into a very noble and rich Muslim family of Yazd. His father was a well-known chieftain of the city, but his son Ahmad was very different. He was a spiritual seeker of truth, and at the age of 14, became interested in mysticism and spirituality. And at age 15, actively began searching. He heard that there were certain saints or holy men who knew special prayers, which if one read and repeat them many times and perform certain rituals, they would be guided to the promised RM, which is to say the Messiah of Muslims. Such a person will be able to find and recognize him. Ahmad began to live in the life of an ascetic and would frequently fast and would isolate himself from others in order to pray and to meditate. However, none of this helped him to fulfill his hope of meeting the promised prophet. His parents and relatives did not approve of these practices of Ahmad, and they felt that this was in a way counter to their expectations and their hope of Ahmad. Ahmad could not tolerate their attitude and their pressure and opposition. So one day, early in the morning, Ahmad made a small bundle of his clothes and belongings, and pretending that he was going to a public bath, left his home and set out on his research in different places to find God, to find God's manifestation, and then at that time it was very strange for people to know that a young person like Ahmad to leave his home and uh, and his family and go for his own very mysterious search. It was a long and difficult journey for Ahmad. He would go from village to village, for example, and dressed as a beggar or dervish. On his way, Ahmad met many mystics, Sufis, and spiritual leaders, always hoping to find the mysterious truth. He would follow any suggestions or spiritual practices that might guide him to his beloved. He was determined that at the age of 20, he, he should go to Bombay in India. Perhaps he could find some signs and news about his beloved prophet. And as you know, in India, there were and still there are mystic teachers and hermits and special power. They have special powers and a special guidance that he felt that he can benefit from them. He heard from one mystic that if after revolution he prostrated himself on the ground and repeated a verse from Quran, and that verse was, "There is no God but God," and do that for 12,000 times. He would most likely fulfill his heart's desire. And this was a very, very difficult task. 12,000 times the same verse in that position to be recited for that purpose. Ahmad took this very seriously and performed this ritual not only once, but several times, but there was no result at all. Utterly disappointed, he returned to Persia and settled in the city of Kashan, where he earned his livelihood through a type of craft called cloth making work. But he never gave up his heartfelt desire and restless search for the truth. Then something happened which was more hopeful. Years later, in Kashan, he heard a rumor about a person claiming to be the promised prophet, the promised one. He immediately and with much enthusiasm began to inquire and to investigate about this, but could not find the clue. Then one day, an unknown traveler came to Kashan and stayed at the same inn, the same place in which Ahmad lived and worked. Ahmad had a strong intuition that this stranger might be an answer to his long search and investigation. So he spoke with this traveler that he didn't know him and asked him about these rumors, asking, do you know anything about it? The man responded to Ahmad, why do you asked this question. Ahmad replied, I want to know if it is true. If it is true, then I shall follow it. Well, this matter was very interesting for this man, and he smiled at Ahmad, and with a joy of confidence, instructed Ahmad to go to the province of Khorasan in the northeast of Iran, and over there he will find a person who is very knowledgeable, a very famous man, and his name is Mullah Abdu'l-Khalid, who would tell him the story and tell him the truth, and he will benefit from that. Here there is a map of Iran. Now, delighted by the news of the traveler, Ahmad left the very next day for the city of Mashhad. Mashhad was capital of the province of Khorasan, and very, very far away, hundreds of kilometers, if not more than that. It took him about 2 months to cross on foot the desert and the mountains to reach Mashhad in the northeast of the country. When he arrived there, he was so exhausted, walking and having no other means of traveling, and also too much energy that he used for that, he became sick, and he badly needed to rest in order to be able to pursue his search. So in Mashhad, later he went to the house to which he had been directed, the home of a very prominent Baha'i. Ahmad explained his struggles to find the promised one to this mullah, and the mullah then angrily grasped Ahmad by the arm and threw him out of his house, saying, "Do not say such things here." Well, you can imagine that how much Ahmad was so disappointed and heartbroken. And at the same time, he was astonished by this man to react that way to a person who came so far away and threw him out of the house. He felt that all his efforts had been in vain, but he decided to go back to the house and to persist until the mullah he will have an open heart and become kinder and can ask him about this question that he had. Perhaps that could guide him finally for the path of God. So the next morning, he returned to the same house of the mullah and told him that he would not go away until the mullah told him the whole truth, because he came for this purpose and he wants to hear from him. This time, the mullah recognized Ahmad to be a sincere seeker and decided to help him. And also understood that this is not someone spying on Babis to cause trouble. He is not a troublemaker. So he instructed Ahmad to attend the evening prayers at a mosque, where after the long sermon, he was to follow the mullah to another mosque, and then some other path to take. To make the story short, through some kind of secret arrangement, eventually Ahmad was able to find two Babis, and together with them reached the upper chamber of a house where he met a prominent and very highly respected Babi. And this was the goal that he achieved to that point. This person, this mullah, was Mullah Sadiq. Mullah Sadiq. Sadiq in Persian means truthful. This was a title given to him. And this man was one of the early Babis known for his erudition and steadfastness, and was highly respectable. And this mullah, during the Bab's ministry, showed much devotion and courage, and later he was praised by Baha'u'llah and was given the more exalted title of Astaq, from Sadiq to Astaq. And Astaq means the most truthful. So this was an elevation spiritually for this gentleman. So meeting with Mullah Astaq had a transformative effect on Ahmad. Ahmad was very pleased that after spending 25 years in search of his goal and being in the valley of search during these 25 years, finally he reached and meeting a person of much knowledge about the purpose of his search. And he had 3 sessions of discussion, conversation with Mullah Astaq. And after 3 sessions, he was all ready to embrace the faith of the Bab and accepted the Babi faith. And this was with all his heart and his soul. He really came to a very important discovery. He became so excited, in fact, that the same mullah had to exhort him to calm him down and tell him that now, Ahmad, you return to your family in Kashan, and insisted that Mullah insisted to Ahmad that you should not disclose this faith to anyone, even to your wife. You should keep it to yourself, because Babis were in great danger and difficulties. So he wanted to make sure that he will not be affected for the time being. And Mullah also was very kind and decided to help Ahmad to go back to Kashan because he didn't have any money. So he gave him some of money and also some gifts for the family when he goes back to Kashan. I should underline the danger which existed, and the Babis were so careful. According to Faizi, even the air was imbued with suspicion, spying, and slander. So Babis, whenever they opened the door and somebody would show up, and they have to be very careful. Therefore, the believers had to be extremely careful, and this is the situation at that time. Mullah Astaq was aware about the life of Ahmad as he returned to Kashan, and in Kashan, Ahmad found a very dear friend, and he found a person by the name of Haji Mirza Jani. He heard that this person converted to a new religion, and after meeting with him, he was just delighted and joyful to find another Babi in Kashan. So this Mr. Mirza Jani, he was the first person to embrace the phase of the cause of the Bab in the city of Kashan, and here now Ahmad joined him together and teaching the faith. One day, the same person, Mirza Jani, came to Ahmad and told him that he has a very exciting news, and said to him, would you like to visit the continents of your Lord? Ahmad was quite surprised and was excited, and with much joy and ecstasy, he arose from his seat and asked how and when I can see. The Haji explained and that he had arranged with the government guards to bring the Bab to his house as a guest for 2-3 nights. And the Bab was, in fact, on his way from Shiraz to Isfahan, and from Isfahan was going to go to Tehran. At this point, I would like to explain a little bit, which is clarifying about this plan to go to Tehran. I would like to say a few words about the meeting which was going to take place with the Shah. As you may know, Muhammad Shah was aware of the Babi movement. I mean, he was aware of the declaration of the Bab, and he had a special interest to meet with the Bab. And because the followers of the Bab and the Babi movement across the country was rapidly increasing, and he wanted to know more about it. He was interested to meet the Bab, and therefore a royal escort was sent to bring the Bab from Shiraz to Isfahan and eventually to Tehran for a plan which was already arranged by the Shah. But the Grand Wazir or Prime Minister of the time was a man whose name was Haji Mirza Ghadirian, who was very ignorant, very fanatic, and a fierce enemy of the Bab. He also had a lot of power for the entire country, and he prevented that meeting take place. As the royal escort was approaching Tehran, Mirza Abbasi wrote a letter to the Shah, warning him and that such a meeting would lead to, as what he said, the disruption of the kingdom and would cause gravest trouble in the country. He would bring up this kind of ideas so that the Shah changed his mind. And he succeeded, unfortunately. And so what happened was that Mirza Abbasi diverted the Bab and his escort to remote city of Tabriz in the way far away in the northwest of the country. And this happened when the escort was getting very close to Tehran. And the escort and the Bab, they arrived in a village which was just 50 kilometers to Tehran. Now it is part of Tehran, but at that time it was very close. At that point, Abbasi succeeded to order and deviate their path toward Tabriz. And now, let's go back to Kashan as we were talking. The Bab arrived in Kashan, and Mirza Jani had invited some dignitaries to his home to meet the Bab, and Ahmad was also invited. At the appointed hour, as Ahmad entered the room where the Bab was, he saw the Bab with a face, he said, quote, the beauty of which surpassed heaven and earth, unquote. Ahmad met with the Bab and was deeply touched by his meekness, dignity, and majesty. It was like beholding the light of God, Ahmad wrote later on. And some dignitaries and divines of Kashan who were seated on the floor, among them, if you ask certain questions, and Ahmad was listening, Ahmad said that the Bab's clear and courageous answers were immediately recognizable as the truth. After that night, another person from Kashan who had attended that gathering was so impressed by the Bab and the conversation that he became a Babi. So there were now 3 Babis in Kashan, and the number of Babis began to rise. Now, as the number of the Babis increased and grew in Kashan, then problem was arising against the Babis. The divines and the clergy instigated hostile and ignorant mob to plunder and kill the Babis. In fact, one day, a number of ruffians attacked the believers and took all their possessions, even breaking all the doors and windows and whatever they could find from Babis, they smashed and also injured and killed Babis. The situation was so grave that Ahmad had to save his life. So he decided to hide in a wind tower of an old Persian house, which with a ventilating shaft he would stay there so that they couldn't find him. And the friends would bring water and food for him. For 40 days and nights, he had to be there and stay until the situation calmed down a little bit. And eventually, he, in a very dark night, he decided to leave. He came out of hiding and scaled the walls of the city of Kashan and made his way to Baghdad. His wish was that from then on, he wanted to go to Baghdad and to see Baha'u'llah and to have this blessing. Because Baha'u'llah at that time among the Baha'is was considered as him whom God would make manifest. To Ahmad, that trip was very important. As he mentioned, it was a journey to abode of peace. By the way, another name of Baghdad those days was abode of peace, a very special place. And so he started his trip toward Baghdad. Now, something happened very interesting on the road from Kashan to Baghdad. It has been reported that on his way to Baghdad, Ahmad met a stranger who was also traveling to the city of Baghdad. However, they indicated to each other that they were both on their way to Karbala. Now, Karbala is a very holy city, one of the most holy cities of Shia Muslims. And usually a lot of people go toward that direction. And they used that Karbala in order to be protected, to be saved from people know that they are going to go to Baghdad. Why? Because Baghdad at that time was known as a center for Babis, because a large number of Babis were there, Baha'u'llah was there, and therefore the Muslims, if they would find somebody or people walking toward Baghdad, that they could target them and could cause a lot of problems. So this was one thing that these two were in agreement and to go toward Karbala, but the real intention was Baghdad. Throughout their journey, these two travelers conducted themselves as Muslims and prayed according to Muslim rites. Upon their arrival in Baghdad, however, there was a little bit change. Ahmad walked in the direction of the house of the Baha'u'llah, and the other co-traveler, who was a stranger, he chose another path and disappeared. After reaching the house of Baha'u'llah, Ahmad was astonished to see that the same man that they walked all the way from Kashan to Baghdad, he was another Babi. And it was quite a joy and delightful moment to see that both of them were Babis, but they could not disclose in any way because one thought that the other one could be Muslim and then give trouble. But Baha'u'llah loved Ahmad, and in fact, he decided to give to find a place for Ahmad to live next door to the house of Baha'u'llah in an apartment that was found, and Ahmad lived in that apartment and stayed until for a very long time. During the period, this period, Ahmad resumed his craft, his glass-making work, and he felt like being really the happiest person in the world, and because living next to Baha'u'llah and having his blessing, his love and kindness, he was very, very much grateful. Speaking later about those days, Ahmad answered that with tears in his eyes, how great and mighty were the events of those days in Baghdad with Baha'u'llah. Ahmad felt his soul was really immensely nourished from the presence of beloved Baha'u'llah, blessed beauty. Here is a picture of House of Baha'u'llah in Baghdad. Now, when the decree of the Sultan was conveyed to Baha'u'llah to leave Baghdad for Constantinople or Istanbul, Ahmad was very worried. He begged Baha'u'llah to be included among the companions who would follow him to go to Istanbul. But Baha'u'llah did not accept it, did not accept this request, and there was reason. Ahmad was among those whom Baha'u'llah instructed to stay in Baghdad to teach and protect the Baha'i faith, the Baha'i faith. As Ahmad saw his beloved depart Baghdad for an unknown destination, he felt very sad and very distressed, but he said that he obeys Baha'u'llah, and he stayed in Baghdad in obedience of Baha'u'llah, and those who were taken by Baha'u'llah with him to go to Constantinople was for the special reason, and that was the fact that Baha'u'llah feared that some of them would cause trouble in Baghdad, and therefore took them with him. Of course, not all of them were not very trusted, but some of them they were. Among the companions of Baha'u'llah, when he left Baghdad for Constantinople, was a person, Mirza Ahmad of Kashan. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, two Ahmad, this was the second Ahmad. By the way, Kashan was the city that, as I mentioned earlier, the Bab was a guest of Mr. Johnny. As mentioned before, the Ahmad also received a tablet from Baha'u'llah, which was in Persian and a very long tablet. He came from a family of 4 brothers. A few words about his family. Of these 4 brothers, 3 of them became Babi and then Baha'is. And Ahmad was one of them. The other one was Haji Mirza Jani, and who not only was the first Babi of Kashan, but also had the blessing of having the Bab as his guest. And later on, this Mirza Jani, who was very, very devoted Baha'i, was martyred. And the other person, the third brother was Ismail, and who became the most devoted Baha'i and was entitled by Baha'u'llah as Anis, means companion, because of his serving the cause and his courage and his knowledge. And the third one I mentioned, so of the fourth, three of them were Baha'is. Now, when Baha'u'llah departed from Baghdad, this Ahmad of Kashan, had the honor of traveling with the manifestation of God to Istanbul and then to Adrianople in Turkey. Unfortunately, this Ahmad was different and became more clear over there. He did not remain faithful and deviated from the faith and becoming a follower of Mirza Yahya Azad, the covenant breaker. And this was very sad because with all affection and attention and the love of Baha'u'llah during the years of Baghdad and later on, this man eventually left the faith. And not only he became a covenant breaker, he caused much suffering to Baha'u'llah himself as well as his family. So in Adrianople, Baha'u'llah revealed a lengthy tablet in Persian to this Ahmad of Kashan in a very loving way, guiding him and trying to help him to be faithful. The exact date of it is not clear, but was when Baha'u'llah in Adrianople. And this person did not listen, and eventually, as mentioned, he joined Azad and caused a lot of suffering to Baha'u'llah, his family, and to the faith. So really the conclusion of his introduction here was that he was not sincere and sincere in heart and broke the covenant. How different from the Ahmad of Yazd, who for over 25 years tirelessly and with much suffering searched until found the promised one and remained faithful to the covenant despite of all tests and tribulation. So these two, although each one of them received a important tablet, nevertheless they were quite different, became much more clear later on. Now, after a few years, Ahmad, who was in Baghdad and working and living and teaching, Ahmad of Yazd left home and left his work and left Baghdad and decided to go to Adrianople, where Baha'u'llah was, and to have the blessing of Baha'u'llah. Significantly was the first manifestation of God who lived on the continent of Europe for that period of time, which was about 6 years in Adrianople. And the next is a picture of the house of Baha'u'llah in the Adrianople. And now we go to Ahmad, who is preparing to go back to Iran. when Ahmad reached Istanbul, he received an Arabic tablet from Baha'u'llah, known today the Tablet of Ahmad. Upon receiving this tablet, Ahmad said, "I received the tablet of Nightingale of Paradise." He put it this way, and he said that he was reading again, and again, and he found that Baha'u'llah's desire was that after receiving that, he should go back to Persia and start teaching. So he did not put his foot in the Adrenapol, where Baha'u'llah was. In Istanbul, he received it and had to go back to Iran. And that was really a sense of a spirit of obedience, and that how much he loved to see Baha'u'llah again. And he decided that his obedience to Baha'u'llah is very important, rather than visiting him, although that was very, very special to Ahmad. So the purpose was that going to Persia to teach the new glad tidings, which are very interesting. I am going to share with you. At the time, there were many Babis who were not yet aware of the significance of the declaration of Baha'u'llah as the manifestation of God. And therefore, Ahmad was asked to travel throughout Persia and find the followers of the Bab, especially the old Babi families, to convey to them this new glad tidings and message from their Lord, Baha'u'llah. It was a heavy and daunting task. As we read in the Tablet of Ahmad, he was told to be a flame of fire to my enemies and a river of life to my loved ones. And again mentioned to be not of those who doubt. These powerful words perhaps reminded Ahmad that his path would be full of hardship, thorns, disease, and blood. However, Baha'u'llah assured him that if he was overtaken by affliction in Baha'u'llah's path or degradation for his sake, he should not be troubled thereby. Ahmad was promised that a divine power would watch over his efforts and dedications. Now, we are following Ahmad in his returning to Iran. Ahmad did return to Persia, most likely entering through the region of Azerbaijan, which is a province in the northeast, northwest of Iran, and where the Bab had been exiled, as you know, and was in prison, and eventually was martyred in the city of Tabriz. So that path was the way that Ahmad chose to come to Iran and go to meet the Babis and Baha'is. His returning to Persia was receiving as a breeze of life. Whenever he went, he tried to help many Babis to see the light and to firmly embrace the cause of Baha'u'llah. But there were also many challenges, as we see as we carry on. Throughout these travels in Persia, Ahmad passed through many challenges and hardship to reach out to the Babis and to introduce and celebrate the new glad tidings. Throughout these experiences, his qualities of persistence, his spirit of tenacity, and his steadfastness were greatly strengthened. And when he met a seeker, he kept returning to that person again and again to finish what had been started. So really, he was very methodical and very, very firm in doing his task. Ahmad truly became the embodiment of that tablet, and he showed really through suffering and through steadfastness and sacrifice. For example, when he was traveling in Khorasan, he went to the house of a prominent Babi called Mr. Farooqi. This is very interesting story that I'm sharing with you, because this time he's going to a home of somebody who is already a Babi, so should be easier anyway, but was not that easy to be to have discussion. This Mr. Farooqi and his relatives, they fought at the Fort Tabarsi upheaval, and his life, their life were in danger, but he did the best he could, and he and his relatives and his family were the survivor of Tabarsi upheaval, and that was very important. That showed the degree of his faith, dedication, courage, sacrifice, and so forth. But when Ahmad entered Mr. Farooqi's house, first he was very excited to meet a prominent Babi. He spoke emphatically and vigorously about Baha'u'llah and about Baha'u'llah's station as one of as the promised one by the Bab, and who was now imprisoned in the Arena. Mr. Farooqi, believing that Ahmad was perhaps a stranger who was now trying to cause trouble, they didn't agree with him. Mr. Farooqi felt that he is going to cause trouble for the not only the family, the Babis over there too. And so there was an argument between Ahmad and Mr. Farooqi. And this argument gradually, the tension escalated to the point that Mr. Farooqi got very angry and physically attacked Ahmad, breaking one of his teeth and throwing him out of his house. And this was a test. This was really a test for Ahmad, this time from the hand of a very prominent Babi being thrown out. This probably was a test of steadfastness for Ahmad and a reminder of Baha'u'llah's words, remember my days during thy days. Ahmad left heartbroken and sad, and but undaunted and deciding to go back. He later returned to the house of Farooqi and told the family and Mr. Flory that he would not leave the house until he had fully discussed the matter and reached to a definite conclusion, and then he can leave. At that time, Baha'is were severely persecuted. Their homes were destroyed, and they were imprisoned, killed, and so forth. This led to their being so much suspicious, as mentioned before, that anyone who is not known and if walk in and start to say something that was taken as a suspicion. So in order to convince Frougi and his family, Ahmad decided to state a few words about Baha'u'llah. Emphatically, he said the word greatest name, Baha, to remind them the word that the Bab used about Baha'u'llah and Baha. But Mr. Frougi didn't seem to be changed very much about that, but he became a bit fair to Ahmad. Say any word, if you show me, if you show me some evidence, and Ahmad brought up this issue of the greatest name of Baha, but Ahmad, in order to prove that Ahmad was wrong, he opened a part of the inner wall of his house. This is just to explain to you, in those days, the Baha'is, in order to protect themselves and protect the writings of the Bab, to show Ahmad, Mr. Frougi got some materials and writings of the Bab, and promised to Ahmad that he would not say a word against the explicit text of the Bab. Ahmad looked at the text that Mr. Frougi took out of the wall and put in front of him that he could read it. Ahmad looked at this text and noted that the very first one, the first text that he was reading after opening, there was the word Baha. And he showed to Mr. Frougi, said that this is what I mean. The Bab mentioned already that Baha, and this is his writing. At that moment, Frougi calmed down and embraced the faith. And then the family all became Baha'i. And this was quite a change that this, for the family of the Frougianis and his relatives, to become much more stronger in the faith. So they remained very active, and they became very devoted teachers of the cause, defender of the cause, and this family remained as an outstanding Baha'i family for the service to the cause. Now, a few other examples I would like to share with you before finishing. Let's talk about another example from the Tablet of Ahmad. That was, as once mentioned before, be a flame of fire. After crossing the region of Khorasan, where Ahmad met Frougi and his family, Ahmad himself went first to Tehran, and while he was in Tehran, a number of divines of Kashan, clergy of Kashan, who knew Ahmad from the past, decided to cause a problem. And they brought a type of complaint against Ahmad that he is responsible. And they took it to the court of the king. And the king, who was all too ready to conflict any kind of hardship or suffering to Babis, he took advantage of that, and he said that he called his officer and mentioned to him that mentioned to the officer that you should put Ahmad to death immediately should he find Ahmad to be a troublemaker. So the young officer tried to encourage Ahmad to recant, to deny his belief. And the officer said that if you recant, I set you free, and so you don't have to be killed. Ahmad at that time really came to the height of his dedication and steadfastness in the covenant, and they mentioned these words. At that time, at that moment, I was at the height of my faith and enthusiasm, and never for one moment, even to thought of recanting. So he was ready to lay down his life for the cause, but was not ready to at all to recant. And he made that clear to the officer. And he also insisted that he is no longer Baha'i. Now he's Baha'i, follower of the Supreme Manifestation. Then the officer decided to detain him and to keep him to see what happens. And after some time, the Ahmad found out that the officer's wife has been suddenly afflicted by a type of disease, very severe illness. And so officer came to Ahmad and said, should my wife recover, I will release you. And 3 days later, the officer came back to Ahmad, and the news was that his wife recovered. And he came to Ahmad and led him to the gate of Tehran and set him free. The officer, by doing so, the officer, in fact, acted at great risk to himself, and because the condition for Ahmad, according to the king, was that Ahmad recant and then be released. But here, the plan of God and the bounty, the blessing of Baha'u'llah was that he stood very firm in the covenant, and this illness caused that the young officer released him, and everything was over. So this is again that in that fire ordeal, and the steadfastness and the courage of Ahmad. The other statement I would like to share is that a river of life eternal. Now, after his release from Tehran, like a bird flying from the cage, Ahmad went first to villages and rural areas to find Babis and to be with them, to help them. And he went to an area which there were a number of Babis who were sifters of wheat. This was their work, their job, and were very pure-hearted and sympathetic, and they received him with utmost love and respect, offering him hospitality and at the time of difficulty, trying to bring comfort and assurance to them, and really they loved him and he loved them. These sifters of wheat in Persian became a name for a group of Baha'is who were perhaps the descendant of the Baha'is of the past. I remember that when I was in medical school, I met a family that I was told that their family name is Sifter of Wheat. I thought that really they are working in a rural area and this was their job, but the name is something different. But then one of the guys told me, no, this is their family name. And later on, I found out that, yes, these wonderful Baha'is from part of Iran who embraced the faith and so forth. So Ahmad was among them for quite some time. And then he went to the south, toward Shiraz and the province of Fars. That is the place that Bob lived, and of course you know the rest of it. But he came back to that part, that is in that province, and for 25 years he lived there among people, not only in Shiraz, but also in smaller town villages, and being with people who have gone through persecution, suffering, illness, and so forth. During their persecution, for example, he would console those who experience hardship and would give them hope and vision for a brighter future, triumph. Ahmad also hosted many travel teachers who would pass through the province, and he would invite them and host them and so forth. It was during this trip and that hand of the cause, Mr. Abul-Qasim Faizi was traveling in that province, and he heard about an old man that friends were talking about, an old man who is a wonderful dervish who had been living there like an angel among the villagers, and many very nice stories about Ahmad, but apparently didn't mention the name Ahmad throughout the world with so much love and devotion. Now I am coming to conclusion of this presentation, but I would like to share with you some information about Ahmad's family and also about what happened to the original tablet of Ahmad in Arabic. The years near the end of Ahmad's life coincided with the spread of persecution of Baha'is again, in the province of Fars. It was a difficult time, and friends were worried about the life of Ahmad and his safety, because he was known by many, and it was decided that Ahmad should move from Fars to a more populated area of the country for his protection. And it was agreed by Ahmad that he go and move to Tehran. And that was the last time that he was in Fars and went to Tehran. Now, about his family, Ahmad was married and had 2 children, a son called Mirza Muhammad, and a daughter named Gohar Khanum. Both of these 2 were very active and devoted Baha'is. Gohar was an example of steadfastness in the covenant. She was like really like a fire in the community, and trying to encourage your friends in the covenant. After Ahmad's house in Kashan was confiscated quite some time ago, his son Mirza Muhammad and his wife and children decided to leave Kashan and go to Tehran. But unfortunately, in that trip, a very tragic event occurred, and that caused all but one member of this family died. And this happened on the road. The nature of that is not clear, whether it was an accident or disease or what. Only one child was left. And this child was a boy, 5 years of age. His name was Jamal, and he survived, but no one knew on the road who is this boy, and from what family he is coming. And some perhaps wonder if this is the child of a Bobby or what. So anyway, someone took pity on this boy and brought him to Tehran. And in Tehran for quite some time, this poor child had no family, and no information about what happened to the rest of the family, or his dynasty, and about the faith. He was very young. But then Ahmad, who was traveling, came to Tehran, and he found out that people are talking about a boy survived from a tragedy. That is his grandson, Jamal, and he loved Jamal. And so he took Jamal under his wing, and Jamal grew up and became a devoted Baha'i. About Tablet of Ahmad, Arabic, for Ahmad of Yazd. Toward the end of Ahmad's life, he entrusted the original Arabic Tablet of Ahmad to his dear Jamal. And later, Jamal, out of the purity of his heart and his devotion to the Baha'i faith, offered this tablet as a gift to the hand of the cause and trustee of Allah, Mr. Waliullah Bagha. As you may know, Mr. Waliullah Bagha was the brother of martyr Ruhullah Bagha, and also the father of the late hand of the cause and trustee of Allah, Dr. Ali Muhammad Bagha. So he later on received an instruction at the time from Shoghi Effendi, who asked the hand of the cause, Mr. Waliullah Varga, to give this original Arabic tablet of Ahmad to the international conference of marking the beginning of the 10-year crusade in 1953. This conference was held in Wilmette, Illinois, and Mr. Waliullah Varga offered this to the archive, to the archives of the Baha'is of the United States. Therefore, the Baha'is of the United States are the trustees of this wonderful Tablet of Baha'u'llah. Thank you